Greetings, all you Jackson Janets, and welcome to your daily dose of donkey with Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, coming with some more off-season Steelers talk. Oh, not a whole lot to talk about. OTAs are wrapping up, so now a little dull point before actual training camp begins. There's a little bit of Steeler news going on, but not a whole heck of a lot. So what should we talk about? What will take up some time? What will be a little bit entertaining, but why not a prediction? And it's going to be prediction of the Steelers' 53-man roster. Obviously, a lot can change, injuries can happen, but as the roster stands now, who do we think out of these 90 players currently sitting here will be the 53 and then eventually the 46 that actually suit up for the Pittsburgh Steelers? This year I have a little different breakdown. I did it one more or two more, I guess technically two more, as offense will get 26, defense only 24 for me, and special teams, of course, gets their 3. But let's start there, the easiest spot to go, your special teams. You got your kicker, Chris Boswell, no doubt about it. Your punter, Harvin III, drafted him last year, kept him even when Waitman or whatever was bombing once, kept him, so clearly they like Harvin. Gotta love the fat punter. So there's 2. And third is Christian Kuntz, long snapper. No reason to change anything. Let's keep it going, same old, same old. But now, let's get to how do we get to the 53. Let's start on offense. I think the Steelers keep 3 quarterbacks. I think it's going to be Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitchell Trubisky. All 3 are staying there because I don't see the point of getting rid of Rudolph because I don't think they get anything with him if he's not the starter. Same with Trubisky. Obviously, Pickett's going to be kept. And if Pickett is a starter and both those guys are the backups, who knows what's going to happen. But I don't see any reason why not those 3 guys. If not, maybe old Dokun does get a chance if for some reason one of the 2 veterans wins the spot and they get an offer for the other one, because that is a possibility. And for future reference, when we go through this, all of these names are just from alphabetical based off their last name, not how I actually view them on the depth chart. Running backs, I think the Steelers do something a little different this year. I think they keep 4 running backs, as I see Mateo Durant, guy I really liked out of Duke, the undrafted free agent, going to make the team. Obviously, Najee Harris. I think Anthony McFarland and Benny Snell Jr. both get the nod here, as I think the Steelers are going to be a little afraid of the injury bug that McFarland's been going through, and they have a loyalty to Benny Snell for whatever reason. Plus, he does play a little bit of special teams, if I'm not mistaken, so could be a reason to keep him. Fullback, they keep 1. They keep Derek Watt. Wide receivers, they keep 6, and people can argue here that you can move one of these guys to somewhere else, but I see Calvin Austin making it. I see Miles Boykin making this roster more so because of his special teams prowess than anything else. Obviously, Chase Claypool, I'm expecting big things from this year. Deontay Johnson, Gunnar Olszewski, because we didn't pay to bring in a return specialist, not to keep him. And George Pickens, obviously one of the 2 rookies along with Austin, is going to make this team. Brings us to tight ends. You carry 3 tight ends. The Steelers are going to keep Freiermuth, Gentry, and Connor Hayward. Potential to add a veteran to this group is one of the groups I was looking at as a potential veteran add. As you're looking at second-year guy, third-year guy, rookie, and Gentry as a third-year guy hasn't had much experience. Offensive line, I believe the Steelers keep 9 here, and let's start from the outside in. At tackle, you keep, obviously, Dan Moore Jr., Chuck Okorafor. Also a spot I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers added was offensive tackle here to upgrade from either Joe Haig and or John Leglue. Although I think Leglue has a decent chance of making this team because he can play all across the offensive line. So that's 4 offensive tackles / offensive guards, because Leglue could be a guard or a tackle. And at offensive guard, obviously, James Daniels looks like he's going to be the right guard. And then you have Dotson and Kevin Green fighting out to be the starting left guard, which could be a good battle. I mean, I did not like Green at center. Maybe he's a little better at playing at guard, a position he's more comfortable with by all accord, and frees up him to not have to focus on making calls or reading defenses, so maybe that'll be a good thing for him. And then centers, I think you got 2. Mason Cole obviously was brought in to be the starter at center, and I think you got to keep a pure backup center, and that's J.C. Hassenauer. The Steelers seem to love him. Very limited guy, but good backup, kind of B.J. Finney type of mold guy. So that wraps up the offensive side of the ball with 26 players making the team there, which leaves only 24 slots on the defense. This is where things get a little dicey. On the defensive line, I think you're looking at, in the middle, the nose tackles, Montravius Adams and Tyson Alulu. Obviously, are going to make the team because there's really not a lot of battle there unless you're a Carlos Davis fan, in which case you could argue for him here or for keeping a seventh defensive lineman. I think Cam Hayward, clearly. DeMarvin Leal, I think, ends up being the main rotational guy. Yeah, I think Isaiah Loudermilk takes it here. I was really torn between Davis and Loudermilk because I'm like, both these guys are guys they drafted late that they like that I haven't really seen anything from, but they seem to really love Loudermilk, so got to give him the nod there, I guess. And then the other starter opposite of Hayward on the tackles is Chris Wormley. Coming off a great year, hopefully he can step up even bigger with Stephon Tuitt calling it a career. So that's 6 there on the defensive line. Outside linebackers, I actually see them keeping 5 outside linebackers, and it's because I think they're going to use Jannard Avery as a guy who can play a little bit in the middle as well. So if they have a desperate need, he can slide over type of deal. So 5 I have here. The mentioned Jannard Avery, who was brought in from Philly, has had a little bit of success, but not a whole lot in his career. Alex Highsmith, the presumed starter out there. I think the boy Tuzar Skipper continues his Debo transformation into a pass rusher, and this stint with the Steelers is the one where he gets to make the team and start showing stuff. Then you have Derek Tuska. I think he showed a little bit last year. There's a lot of flaws in his game, but there's a little something special there from time to time. I think that gets him a spot. And, of course, how the heck does TJ Watt not make a roster, right? So there you go. That's your 5 outside linebackers. Middle linebackers, I think the Steelers only keep 4. And this was a tough one for me because there's 3 guys who I think are fighting for the same role. And that's guys like Mark Robinson. Why can't I think of the rookie from last year's name that made the team? But him. And, of course, Ulysses Gilbert III, who's been there forever and has kind of turned into a decent special teams player. But let's start from the top. Devin Bush, clear starter, clearly going to make it. Miles Jack, clear starter, clearly going to make it. I think out of those 3 I just mentioned, Mark Robinson, the rookie out of Ole Miss, is the one who gets it, because he has a lot of untapped potential, and turning on the film, he's just a downhill backer that the Steelers seem to always like. And since none of those 3 can really cover, I think Robinson's going to show up, play out, and show some special stuff on special teams. And then, of course, prototypical backup, Robert Spillane has to make the team. And for all you who are wondering, no, I don't think Marcus Allen makes the roster, as I only think the Steelers keep 4 middle linebackers, and that's because I have a cornerback and a safety who I both think are capable of playing that dime backer role. And we'll get into both of them here. Cornerbacks, I have the Steelers only keeping 5. That is, of course, the guys who look like they're going to be the starters. Let's start from the top. We'll just do it like we did everything else. Arthur Millette, I think, is their one of the slot guys they like. I think they keep him. Trey Norwood, they showed they like him last year, and I think they might put him in a little bit more of the dime backer role this year. Then you have Cam Sutton, your clear starter at the slot, hopefully right now. Levi Wallace, next, brought in from Buffalo to be the starter to take over for Joe Hayden, so obviously going to make it. And Akilah Witherspoon, they signed and brought him back after being the best corner on the team the last 4 games after looking terrible his first 2. So that's the reason there. That's why I think you got 5 corners, and there's one of the 2 people I think takes over the Marcus Allen role of dime backer. At safety, you have the starters, Edmonds and Fitzpatrick, clearly going to make the team. Hopefully Fitzpatrick gets his new contract, and hopefully they work out really good. I think DeMonte Kazi makes the team as well. They signed him, was a guy who had some great time back there and was okay last year for Dallas. But like I said, when he was in Atlanta, led the NFL interceptions at one point. And then last but not least, Miles Killebrew, the other guy who could play dime backer, because hopefully that's where they use him and not in safety, because he looked terrible in the time he got to play safety out there. Plus, another special teams expert, and you got to let the special teams experts show what they can do on the special teams. So hopefully they can find him a role in the defense so he's not just a special teamer like Derek Watt has been only a special teamer since he signed here, because we can't find him a role in the offense. But who knows? A new offense, new offensive system, maybe that goes for it. And who knows what's going to happen from there. If you want I think I named pretty much all the starters that we're going through, except for maybe receiver, which is obviously Johnson, Claypool, and Pickens will be the top three. Um, Everything else, the starters are mostly known, except for a couple battles. I think that's my original 53. There's a lot to change. There was some tough battles for me. Do I keep a fifth middle linebacker? Do I keep a seventh defensive lineman? Or is it four running backs? I honestly think it's going to be four running backs just because I don't think they're going to believe in the faith or the health of McFarland. I don't know what they're going to feel about Durant. But I'm telling you right now, one of the positions I wouldn't be surprised if it changes is the running back one, especially into the year. If Durant shows something good or McFarland shows something good, that Benny Snell Jr. could be moved on from because he's a short yardage back that can't get a yard. I understand the offensive line wasn't good last year, but still, when you're that short yardage guy, it doesn't matter how the line is. Your job is simple. Get that yard. And he's just a guy who has struggled with it for a long time. But I just have a feeling the Steelers, for some reason, show this infatuation love with certain players. That happens to be Benny Snell. They keep him around. And maybe he can produce like he did his rookie year. Get it going again. There's nothing to say, and he can't. Other fun ones is the quarterback. Do the Steelers end up only keeping two if they're able to move on from whichever veteran doesn't win the competition between those two? And whether that be the competition between the three for the starter, or if Pickett wins the starting job, the competition between the other two for the backup. Whoever doesn't win it, I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers tried to move on from them. But if the Steelers can't move on from them, what really do they have to gain by getting rid of them? Because if they can't get a draft pick or something for them, it doesn't hurt to keep the insurance policy there, let them play out, and not help someone else by getting rid of a decent player, which the way the Steelers have done it, I wouldn't be surprised if they get rid of someone to help out another team, but neither here nor there. If you want some NFL news that has happened this week, I guess we should mention that along with Deshaun Watson having more women accuse him, the Houston Texans are now named in the lawsuit involving the new Cleveland Browns quarterback, Deshaun Watson, because they did some things to make sure that nothing ever got out about the thing, and it wasn't very liked by the Tony Busby or whatever his name is, the lawyer that's representing all the women. So more bad shadows looking for the NFL right now as they're trying to propel this image of squeaky clean, but seem to have a big issue with doing it. And I didn't really see any other AFC North or NFL news that was worth note as of right now. Still a bunch of decent free agents remaining that I'd like to see the Steelers add to change this roster. Like I said, I think an offensive tackle and a defensive lineman would be a good spot to add. But neither here nor there. We'll see what happens with the Steelers, and we'll see how this roster breaks out. Hopefully I get to update it with some more big-time talent coming in on my next roster breakdown. Hopefully, in the coming weeks, we get to see Laskers make his triumphant comeback. Gingy make another comeback to talk about what we're looking at as Steelers' schedule record-wise for wins and losses. And Laskers for wins and losses, view of the offseason, and maybe an initial roster breakdown. Who knows? Hopefully, I can get all that stuff coming in the future weeks, make things a little bit more interesting. Maybe we'll bring Bugboo back to see what he thinks about our roster breakdown and who he thinks is going to be making this team, although he'll be a little confused on that. I think we'll try to keep him to the starters. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in. I guess it's time to go to the shout-outs. The shout-out for me this week has to be a guy who I gave it to last year a lot because he was a guy who was brought in to improve things, but was cut from two of the worst offensive lines in there and really didn't have much of a factor. And unfortunately, I think he's medically retiring, and that's B.J. Finney. Undrafted guy out of Kansas State who, if you watched when he found out he was going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the dude just loved it, and it was a great moment to see. He's a guy who definitely gave his all, was a little under-talented for the NFL, but made do and was a decent starter in spots for the Steelers during his first stint here. So, B.J. Finney, congrats to you on a good career you had, and as an undrafted player, making the jump that not a whole lot get to. So, shout out to B.J. Finney for all he was able to give to the Steelers organization and wish him nothing but the best in his future endeavors. Now it's time to let you know I am the Viking Donkey. That is Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Your daily dose of donkey with Ginger is the YouTube channel where most of the content goes and most of the interactions happen. Leave us a like, leave us a follow, leave us a comment. Tell me what you like to see, what you don't like to see, future parts you would like. If you want an expansion from just Steelers talk, just let it know. Leave it there. All feedback is great feedback. Donk Nation, Steeler Nation. It's getting close to real football time, under 90 days. That means wave them if you got them. Here we go.